Hello, everyone. We are live, and this is Film Week. No one's on yet, so we'll take a few seconds while Doerge figures out his microphone. But this is Film Week. I'm your host, Samuel Teyssier, and whoever's here is here, and this will be up as a pre-recording later. But I'm your host, and Jackson Guido is with me.
I am.
And
indeed,
Michael
yes.
Doerge is silent, but with us today. And today we will all be discussing the NATO versus Universal Pictures. And NATO stands for the National Association of Theater Owners. Ryan Reynolds is circling a live-action video game adaptation. What could that be? We will find out. And George Miller is actively planning for Mad Max Furiosa spin-off, sequel, prequel. We'll talk about that.
Something like that.
How are you guys doing this week? This is Film Week.
Good, definitely.
How's your life in the film world? Like, have you seen anything this week? Anything going on in that realm? I'm sure you guys have seen a lot.
I did see something this week, yeah. So I talked last week a little bit about how I wanted to check out the Netflix short-form documentary series Tiger King that just came out. I'm sure you guys have heard of it. A lot of people are talking about it on social media. I got a chance to binge through the whole thing this week. It's about 7 episodes, about an hour long each, 45 minutes. I highly recommend it. I think it's one of the best documentary short series I've seen in a long time, especially on Netflix. They do a good job, but it's really excellent and fascinating. Even if you don't find yourself drawn to the subject initially, it just gets so crazy that no matter who you are, I think you'll find it entertaining. So I would recommend checking out Tiger King. It definitely exceeded my expectations for sure.
Really?
Yeah, and I'm a big documentary guy. I love those, but it definitely is up there for me. Oh, and Turkey's still over there in the quiet zone. We got to get him up. We got to hear his beautiful voice.
Yeah, but the thing with Tiger King, I remember seeing him running for president because we were in middle school. I think we were looking at the presidential candidates in the 2016. He was one of them, and he was one we were laughing at just how odd he was. And it's so. That? Oh yeah, I remember seeing. What's his? I forget his name.
Joe Exotic.
Joe Exotic. I remember seeing him, his face.
Working now.
And
yeah, you sound great.
That's just my laptop microphone.
I guess that's how it works.
It sounds better, yeah.
Tried and true. Good to have you, Doerge.
Yeah, I was going to say my roommates have been watching that show all day.
I feel like everyone's talking about it, yeah.
Yeah, I might get into it. It's how many episodes? 8? Probably.
7. Honestly, if you're not interested by the end of the first one, then it's probably not your thing because it's the same thing, but it just ramps up in terms of intensity, of course. And the interesting thing is, I think some of the best documentaries out there that I've seen, at least, are ones that the filmmakers go into it with a certain approach, thinking it's going to be something, and then events happen during production that really change the course of what the documentary ends up being about as a whole. That's fascinating. Like his whole, I won't get too deep into the spoilers, but he runs into some pretty serious legal issues that happen during production. And, it's really interesting to see those unfold, because they were just going into it like, hey, let's get this documentary about this crazy tiger guy who owns a couple hundred tigers in Oklahoma. But as things go with that, when you have a pretty chaotic person, chaotic things tend to happen as a result. So seriously, it's a jam. I would watch it for sure if you get a chance, honestly.
Yeah, he's an interesting guy. I've heard about him for a while. I'm glad that he gets his rightful time in the spotlight right now. Is there anything you've seen, Doerge, this week?
Since we've been quarantining, I've watched some movies, but I've been watching a lot of weirdly enough, like animated kids shows, like Avatar: The Last Airbender.
Oh yeah.
Legend. I started watching Legend of Korra for the first time. I watched a show on Netflix called The Dragon Prince. Watched all 3 seasons of that. Really weird. I don't know why. I think because everything's really dark right now, so I'm just like, I just need to watch really light things right now. So I'm just watching like kids learn how to save the world.
Yeah, I'm down with that.
They're pretty good though. There's a lot of really good storytelling in those kind of shows, and a lot of really really good world building. Take a lot of lessons from it,
World building. Well, kids' fairy tales, they have the foundations of what we grow up into learning and story elements that evolve into much more adult themes. So
Yeah,
those are
I
the
mean, just
bases.
like I think
Yeah.
last time I was on, we talked about I was watching Over the Garden Wall, another
Yeah.
show, but again with a lot of adult themes that maybe the kids don't pick up on. But there's a lot there in a lot of these kind of shows for. It's also just nice to be like just a group of friends that are just like nice to each other and they care about each other's feelings. It's just very nice to be able to, oh, they're catching.
Yeah, we need that more than ever, I'm sure, given the current circumstance. What about you, Sam? You seen anything in quarantine that you want to tell the world at large?
I saw 3 films, and the first one I saw from this week to last week was Get Into the Greek. It's a spin-off of Forgetting Sarah Marshall, which I still want to see Forgetting Sarah Marshall, but I haven't seen that yet. And it's a okay comedy with Russell Brand and Jonah Hill, but it, it's fine for what it is. It's a road trip comedy. And I saw the end of the tour with Jason Segel and Jesse Eisenberg. It's about David. It's a biopic, kind of about David Foster Wallace and his book tour with the Infinite Jest, and it's called like one of the best books of this century. I'd like to read it. It's like
I've read
1,000
the first
pages.
couple of chapters of it. It's thick.
Yeah,
It's written as a called it like a encyclopedic narrative or something.
yeah.
So it's just like really really detailed. It was interesting, but I couldn't read it after a while. But
Yeah, it's 1,078 pages or something crazy, but it has like hundreds of footnotes and stuff. But it's an odd book, and it's written by an odd man. But you learn a lot about his character through the interviews. Jesse Eisenberg plays an interviewer from Rolling Stone in his final days of his book tour, and it's a small budget film with 2 very talented actors, and I was glad that I saw it. And then I saw The Art of Self Defense, which is on Hulu, and it was in theaters for a short time, but I really liked it, and it's a dark comedy where it's a satire on the karate world in a way, and it's very funny. I like dark comedies if I had to pick. So those are the ones I've seen, and also Imgid Poots. I don't know how to say her name. Immigrant Poots. She's an actress, and with Jesse Eisenberg in that film, and they're in the Vivarium film together. That was supposed to come out this week, I think. But they were both in The Art of Self Defense together. Vivarium.
Vivarium.
We talked about it. It's the one about the suburban. It's like the suburban house, and it becomes a maze.
Oh, I do remember this one. You're right. Feels like an eon ago we were talking about that.
Yeah.
she's
I can't forget it.
She's the punk girl from Green Book.
Yeah, yeah. Wait.
Green Room.
Green Room. Okay. Okay.
No, they're pretty similar.
Anyway, that's what we've seen this week. Tell us what you've seen in the comments. We already have a few comments. Someone said they saw Planet Terror today, and then they said it's a part of Grindhouse. It's like a series of vignettes by.
Isn't that the one? Is that Robert Rodriguez? That one?
Yeah, Tarantino did one. Robert Rodriguez did one. They all like did one vignette to this larger part of this whole film. So
Huh.
yeah, it's an interesting concept, and that's what Tarantino likes, the old style of film where he likes his intermissions. But
Yeah, he does.
Like they drive through
Yeah.
double features where they had 2 movies screening at night. One was Tarantino, one was Rodriguez, and there's a short in the middle. I think that one of those was Eli Roth, or not Eli
yeah,
Roth.
probably. No,
It was the guy who's directing the Borderlands.
Eli Roth.
Oh, is that Eli?
Yeah. But that's what we've seen. Yeah, Death Proof's in there, he said. The Wolf of Wall Street, some people are saying. So all a range of different stuff.
But I guess we all have time on our hands, right?
Yeah. It's very it's a nice thing to watch in this time, I guess. Very it reflects our time in a way right now. Just the chaos of it. As someone that we lost in the film world was a composer named I can't try. I have to try the name, but
It's actually easier than you think.
It's gonna hurt.
It's where is
Christoph? It's just Christoph.
it? Yeah, Christoph Penderecki.
Okay, that's a cool name. Cool way to spell Christoph.
Definitely a cool way to
very
spell it, right?
Polish way. Yeah, he's a composer for a lot of old time horror films. Include the Shining. He composed the music to The Shining. I'm pretty sure also The Exorcist. I think that's. I'm sorry if I got that wrong. Yeah, The Exorcist. Yeah, he did The Exorcist. Yeah,
music for it. It was his music was used.
Oh,
for
okay. Yeah.
Afterwards, but he had composed them prior. He's like a classical composer
Wow.
who kind of found his work, moved into the film world a little bit, which I find to be a little interesting, you know. But
yeah,
definitely tragic to lose anybody in the film industry. But 86, not too bad. But at the same time, definitely losing a talent and somebody whose scores are really iconic and some incredible horror movies that I have not seen, and I'm proud to say that I have not seen them because I'll tell you what, horror, old or new, is not my jam. But definitely, I'm sure his work is incredible, and I will never hear it, most likely. Not my cup of tea.
Yeah, but it's it's his work. I mean, the Shining soundtrack is one of the best parts of the movie. To be honest, it's I listen to that when I write all the time. Even if I'm not writing something scary, I just listen to it. It's just kind of.
You were trying to write a comedy and you're listening to The Shining theme song or something. That's funny. Yeah, but always ashamed to lose a good talent. At first when I saw that you put that in the show notes, I was a little worried that it was going to be coronavirus related. But it seems like it was an ongoing serious illness, which doesn't make it any better. But you never like to hear about coronavirus impacting the world and hurting the people we love the most, like the composer of The Shining.
Yeah, he's an older fellow, but. Before we jump into the rest of our show today, I'd just like to tell everyone in the comments, please like the video, share it to everyone that you know, and subscribe to the show on YouTube as well. The podcast will be out tomorrow, and we have a new segment that will be ongoing as long as this semester goes on, and that's called Film Club, which we will be starting next week, and we'll be announcing the film this week. And Film Club is just like a book club, but it's with films. So that means I'll announce the film this week, and then we'll all discuss it next week. Everyone in the comments can watch it with us. We'll have group discussion. Everyone in the comments can share in our discovery of this film. And we'll learn about the film at the end of the show. So exciting. And then each week we'll revolve around the table and each find out a new film that someone picks. Hopefully it's new for all of us. And everyone in the comments can discuss it with us. And we'll have a group experience with this. And that should be fun. So
what's the movie?
We'll talk about the end of the show. I
Oh,
have a whole year. I
I
told you to
suppose.
buckle in, Doerge. We had a fun show ahead of us. And as we get into our show today, there's no box office, like as we said last week.
Yeah.
There's not much you can do with that. But there is one thing that the box office is doing, and that is being angry at Universal
Yeah,
and Trolls 2. And some people would say rightfully so, because every major production company, Disney, Paramount, Warner Brothers, and so on and so forth, they have contacted and have been discussing with their partners at the theaters around the country, telling them what they've been thinking, what they've been doing, that they've been delaying their films, and some have been going to VOD as well. And this isn't good for either side, but it's something that you have to do in this time and work together to move forward, because this is a relationship that has to work for both sides to succeed, and you have to be transparent. But chief of the National Association of Theater Owners, John Fiffian, has claimed that cinema exhibitioners will not forget Universal Studios' decision to release Trolls World Tour straight to home release.
It's so cryptic. He's acting like he's doing a mob shakedown or something. Like,
yeah, we won't forget when we're bankrupt and out of business.
yeah, what power do the theaters have at this point anyway? Are they going to call out a hit on Universal?
They'll not forget.
Before coronavirus, the theaters had no power. Disney could like keep it in for 3 weeks. We don't care how many screens you have. Like, what is it? We won't forget. Like, cool.
Definitely, it feels a bit empty.
Yeah. No, but the thing is, why are they mad about Trolls 2 and not about Bloodshot or anything like that? That's because Trolls 2 was the only film to not actually get released yet. Like, it never got initially released. Like, all these films before were either released and were taken a VOD after, but Trolls 2 is going straight to VOD now. Like, it's never going to go on. They're saying in all its marketing and advertising that it's out on VOD and theaters the same day. But this film's releasing April 4th or something. This is not going to go to theaters. No theaters are open, but it's claiming that it's going on into theaters. So, and that's why Universal and John Fiffian, Universal, he's claiming that they're lying to consumers with the statement. Because I saw this on TV the other day when they said it's releasing on both day to day. And he said, but all of the movies with originally planned release dates in April and May, with the exception of Trolls, will be released theatrically and with full theatrical windows. So it seems like he wanted this to get delayed so theaters can get their rightful kids. They want their kids' audience. They want the kids to come in, just like Doerge. Doerge's on his kids watching binge right now, his animated binge. They could have got Doerge to come to this, and maybe they could have tempted him with Trolls 2.
Line for Trolls 2. First in line, dude. I'm pretty sure he already bought tickets. It's like the Rise of Skywalker premiere.
Who knows? And it just, they're very upset at the moment. And that's what they just keep saying. Only Trolls did this and skip the theatrical model initially. And what they did do, like all the other production companies have been having a clear and honest communication with the theaters. But 20 minutes before they made this statement to the public, they contacted the theaters and said, this is going to be VOD 20 minutes before they told the public. Mm-hmm. So, and people are seeing this as just like behind the back and kind of backstabbing the theaters, that they're partners in this. They have to work together, and that's what that's their mindset. But what do you think this could mean for the future of Universal and its relationship with the overall theaters that we all go to?
It's such a semi-dependent relationship. I don't think that Universal needs the theaters nearly as much as the theaters need Universal and need new films coming in to get people into the theaters. This is so it feels like such small potatoes at this point. You have this massive global pandemic. The theaters are already hemorrhaging money by not being able to be open. And on top of it, why are you going to target this one Trolls movie for being the film that decided to release straight to VOD? It's not as if this is going to be an outlier. I guarantee you we're going to see many films released straight to VOD here on out. They say that they're going to shift their release dates, and a lot of them are saying that they're going to release at an undisclosed weekend later in the fall. Those weekends are never going to materialize. I think most of these films are going to go straight to video once they realize that the fall is going to be way too congested with all of this backlog from the spring. It's just not going to happen. So a lot of the films, particularly those in a mid to low budget, are probably going to be the ones that are forced in one way or another to go to Netflix directly, and that's how they're going to distribute. And frankly, I don't think it's a bad thing either, because I think if you oversaturate the theater, it's going to lead to more movies failing, and that's something the theaters don't want either, because they don't want empty screens all the time. So if they have 8 movies to pick from in one weekend, that's not good for them. They need a few films every week that'll consistently bring people in. And so I don't see what he wants from them. I mean, this is an unprecedented event, right? What are they supposed to do? They have to
move it to November. That's what they want. Move it back. Push it.
I think it's just the dying universe of these poor studios. These poor theaters, just like, guys, come on. This is like, I mean, like, we said this last time I was on. It's like, this is about to be like the needle in the last nail in the coffin of the poor theater owners association, because they're just
theaters.
Like,
they're done, man. I mean, I'll be surprised. I'll be surprised if any of them, if most of the major chains open up after this. But yeah, you're right. I mean, we were already talking about how screwed they were before coronavirus.
Yeah, I see. This is just funny to me, because he's just they can't expect all these studios to not release their films on VOD. Like, what are they going to do? Just take the L like they are? Like, they don't have to. If they don't have to, like, lose a bunch of money, they're not going to. They're not going to do it out of solidarity for the theaters. They don't care. They want to make money. They have to survive. And it sounds weird. It kind of sounds kind of cruel, but the studios are the ones that spent millions and millions of dollars to make these movies, and they are the ones to stand to take more losses from this, I suppose. I mean, the theater association still, a lot of theaters are still going to go down, but at this point,
I don't know, man.
Yeah.
I think everyone stands to lose a lot, but yeah, I mean, especially, you're right. It just makes no sense for the studios to take as big of a loss as well. If there is even a small way out to continue to make some revenue, do it. There's
especially
no
$20 viewing.
Yeah.
And they're still going to lose money either way. That's the thing. Universal, they're not going to make as much money as they were going to. And this film was even tracking to make half as less as the first film opening weekend. So it wasn't going to be a big hit. But I don't think that's what the theaters were going for. They just don't think Universal is being as honest as they could have been and as transparent. And I see that. But in this situation, though, do you see, like, what do you see the theaters doing? Like, they say they won't forget this. Like, they're not going to forget what Universal did to them. What do you think they could do in the future to Universal?
Put a horse's head or a Shrek head in somebody's closet or something. I don't know, man. What are they going to do?
Not show Universal Studios movies. I feel like that.
Or maybe just give them less theaters. Maybe that's the thing. They could just. If it's competing with a Disney film that weekend, you could have 2,000 theaters, like maybe something like that. That's the extent of what I could see. And over time, I could see this hurting them if they get this mindset of Universal bad. But we'll see what could happen of this. Trolls 2, I didn't see it in the beginning as a big draw to kids as well. This summer was stacked with a bunch of kids films. Yeah, first off we saw Peter Rabbit. That was one of the first films that bowed out, but there was a ton of other ones along with those two that were releasing this summer that were going to compete with this. So I think it was a dangerous time for Trolls 2 to begin with, and it wasn't going to succeed here or there. And someone in the comments, Zach, he said Universal will probably have a streaming service. They do, and it's releasing this summer called Peacock. So I'm sure you'll find this film on Peacock with the opening day release of Peacock. So if you want to see Trolls, you could hold on to your $20 and pay $8 or $12 for Peacock if you want to. But please tell them to change the name, and I might give it a shot. But this film is releasing video on home video and in theaters April 10th. So if you're excited for it, find it there. Yeah, in theaters, in quotation.
If there are any theaters that are still open.
Yeah, it's an interesting situation, but if I was a theater, in my mind, I would feel kind of backstabbed because everyone else is accommodating, and then like all the other production companies are accommodating and pushing back and not releasing on streaming or VOD, except for Universal. So that's why they look like the enemy in their minds. So that's what I see. But someone else who is going to be the hero is Ryan Reynolds. Like in everything he does, he's going to be the hero in the adaptation of Dragon's Lair.
Allegedly,
and
yes.
Of allegedly, it's in the works, and the negotiations are on the table by Netflix. They have closed a deal to pick up the rights to the game. And for those of you who don't know about the Dragon's Lair game, it's a 1987 RPG it's an odd type of game that doesn't exist anymore. It's kind of like a clicking exploration game in a way.
It's like an adventure.
It's like an point and click arcade adventure game.
Yeah, you're not even pointing; you're just clicking.
Yeah, it's all about it's basically like a story that's like been animated in like full like Disney-esque animation style, and when the character goes through the layer, and every once in a while an arrow will pop up. If you don't hit the arrow, don't push towards the arrow at the right time, your character dies. And it was really expensive to play, I guess, back in the 80s. It was like a full dollar to play it. So.
Well, yeah, it's got those cutting edge graphics. Those won't pay for themselves. Those Don Bluth animations.
It's literally just a cartoon that every once in a while you need to hit an arrow, or you have to start over and pay to watch it.
Yeah, it's a game that really tests the boundaries of what can be called a game. I mean, in that vein, I bet you a DVD menu could be considered a game in one way or another.
But, which takes me to my next point. I think this is really stupid. I find myself saying that a lot on the show, but turning Dragon's Lair into is it live action? Is it
it's a live action? Yeah, it's a live action film. The writers of the Lego Movie and Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark are writing the script. The people behind it it's not that off-putting to me, at least. Ryan Reynolds, he's producing as well. That's a part of his contract negotiations. He wants to produce with his maximum effort banner. There's a bunch of interesting stuff that goes behind this, but like Doerge's, like I'm gonna say, and Doerge might echo me on this, but the premise is very just basic. Dragon saves the princess from a dragon.
Yeah, that's about it.
But they negotiated for a year for the rights of literally the only things that are trademarked about this are the name Dirk the Daring, Princess Daphne, dragon named Singe, and a wizard named Mordok. They could have just renamed everything. The only thing they're getting out of this is the name Dragon's Lair, which, look,
what does it hold? What?
If 80s nostalgia is that strong with the audience that just saying they're making a Dragon's Lair movie will get them to watch it, then I guess I'm the stupid one. But I really don't think it's...
No, man, Ryan Reynolds has so much more clout than Dragon's Lair. I mean, that's the bigger piece you're bringing to this, honestly.
They could have literally just made whatever script they're about to write. They could have just wrote that and then just said, hey, this thing is kind of like Dragon's Lair, but it's not. That would be expensive and stupid. Take forever, right? Everybody would be like, yeah. But they didn't, and they bought the rights to it.
And I saw Austin put in the chat, he's asking if Dragon's Lair is like Black Mirror, which I assume he means Bandersnatch, which is that Netflix choose your own adventure type thing. It's a little bit different. If you think about like the quick time events in AAA titles where it's press A at the certain part in the cutscene, that's the closest thing we have in modern games to approximate this to. It's not a choose your own adventure. It's if you do anything else but press this button, it plays a little cutscene of the guy dying.
Literally be the first ever like cutscene, like quick game type thing.
Yeah,
like, the entire game.
And it's very short. I think the whole thing, if I remember correctly, is less than 10 minutes. If you go through the whole thing, it's shockingly short.
How look it up on YouTube of like someone playing through it and actually beating it, and yeah, it's just like it's like a 10-minute cartoon that they made like a dumb amount of money off of just by being like, watch it. Hit the arrow fast.
It was the coolest thing in the arcade. I mean, if everything else looks like little 8-bit spaceships and then you show up with full color HD animation graphics, I mean, yeah, that's going to draw people in. But the actual game itself, and that makes me think it's, I don't want to say that I'm not a fan of the game because I like Don Bluth's work, whether it's in video game or in film. I like his style.
Yeah, he's also directed films. That's what some people might not know. And before he made Dragon's Lair, he was an animator at Disney, and he was disgruntled, I'm assuming, or he just left on his own terms, and he created this game with a video game production team. So he has a cool story, but sorry, I had to cut in there. But
no, yeah, for sure. No, and a lot of people don't know that there's that connection, but yeah, it's like, I think he was the head on like Titan AE and the Rescuers and a bunch of, 80s and 90s was Treasure Planet one of his? I can't remember if he was associated with that. Definitely looks like a John Bluth movie. But the point is, I don't know. It would be different if they were making an animation. I could see something and trying to preserve or trying to replicate his style in a certain way, sort of like how they've done. I'm trying to think of someone to compare him to, like Jim Henson, who has a really signature style with his puppetry, and then trying to make something like Dark Crystal Age of Resistance on Netflix, which is like in so many ways a homage to his work. That would be interesting to me, and I'd be more willing to see that. But like a live action, does that make sense to anybody? It just feels like what's there besides the style?
Unless they actually make make it like Bandersnatch, like actually make it a choose your own adventure. But even then, it's like, why did you bother buying Dragon's Lair rights?
Yeah,
it was just. I'm not going to stop talking about that. Yeah, I agree that if they're not going to animate it, what about this property is exciting to translate?
Dragons and swords. They were the first one to think of it, I guess. So you gotta give it to But I don't know. Ryan Reynolds, he's always getting involved in weird stuff, and I feel like he always takes on projects that interest him. And a lot of people say, well, he's never steered us wrong. And I don't think he has. I think Deadpool was a great venture. And I think this Free Guy thing he's doing is super weird and fun. I think, I'll follow him wherever he goes until the well starts to dry. But, he's concerning me a little bit with some of his picks. I won't lie. I feel like a couple of these have to become flops sooner or later.
Yeah, with me at least. Like this concept is so broad that you can really do anything with it. That's the fun part about it. Like that's when you have, what was that one film? Like Emoji Movie. Mm-hmm. You could absolutely do anything with that concept. There's no premise. There's no baggage behind it.
Again,
There's nothing you could do. You could have.
Movie again.
They could have done anything with it, but they chose to do what they did, which I never saw it. I never will.
Which is
But
to say, I feel like I'm not a studio executive. I'm a 21-year-old. I'm gonna graduate, hopefully. I don't know.
We'll see about
yeah. But if you can do literally anything with it and you have all this freedom, why are you using the title of it? Like, well, what's the point? Like, I know it's supposed to be bringing audience, but it was something like Emoji Movie. What, just make a normal animated series with your own concept that's not gross. Maybe that's. But then, like, same thing with this. It's like, just don't pay for the name of Dragon's Lair. I mean, honestly, at this point, they probably could have just called it Dragon's Lair and been like, yeah, try and sue us.
Yeah, seriously, how are you going to get around that? I don't understand. I mean, there's such nothing. The originality came with the execution of the style of the animation and with the concept as a whole. But if you're moving it to a different medium and you're getting rid of that style, like, I don't know what's
the only thing, like you're saying.
Yeah, I don't know, man. Ryan Reynolds does some weird stuff. Well, I guess we'll see where he takes us next. We got Free Guy, which I think was supposed to come out this summer, right?
July, I think, yeah.
But I mean, we'll see if that date holds true. But he's got some interesting properties coming up, so we'll have to watch him pretty closely and see.
Yeah, one last thing. If I asked, let's say, 20 people just on the street before all this crap went down, what is Dragon's Lair? Do you think that would have people would have known what Dragon's Lair is?
It's not recognizable at all. I mean, they would say it's a place where dragons keep their they wouldn't know that you're talking about, right, Doerge? Like, they wouldn't know that you're talking about a property.
I think Dragon's Lair is really only recognizable to people who grew up in the 80s where they could go to arcades, or people that have read like the Ready Player One book, maybe, because that's the only reason I know personally. So I don't know. There's a bunch of 40-year-old people out there just like, Dragon's Lair movie.
Heck yeah, let's go. But I doubt that that's a thing. Like, Ryan Reynolds, he's also kind of making me kind of worried at this point, because I just see this being the same camp. Like, to me at this point, all of Ryan Reynolds' like past 5 films, they're campy to me, and I don't want to see that from him. Like before Deadpool, but I'd say past 5. Like starting with Deadpool, like he's been playing Deadpool in the past like 5 things that he's done.
Yeah.
Honestly, and he in this role, if he doesn't play Deadpool in this role, I'd be surprised. Like I like him being Deadpool, but I like him being Deadpool in Deadpool. I think that makes sense, and it should make sense. But yeah. I want to see Ryan Reynolds act some more and not just be Deadpool.
I guess so, man, but I don't really mind his direction. I mean, do you remember where Ryan Reynolds was before Deadpool? Like, I mean, come on, we were doing the Green Lantern and sub-tier romantic comedies. Like, he was in a rough spot, I'll tell you what. And then he kind of dug himself out with that property. So, yeah, he's got a weird little niche, but I kind of like his niche as opposed to where we were before. Deadpool's got its charm, and it's got its place in the in the R-rated landscape for sure.
True. And if this does happen, I want to see something different. And I wonder why, like, if they're still chasing that Game of Thrones audience, Netflix, or they could be like, they also have a Dungeons and Dragons series, I think, going on, or film going on. That's in development at Netflix as well. They have the IP of Dungeons and Dragons. So
yeah, I didn't know about that either.
I'm pretty sure they do, and they're trying to make something with that. It's one of these streaming services. It's either
Prime's making an animated TV show off the whole Twitch stream.
Okay,
that's coming out. Never.
Okay, my bad. Well, just a lot of these services are chasing that audience right now, and yeah, and that's what some people are saying. I feel like Ryan Reynolds is just Deadpool in reality. That could be true.
I think so too.
But
I think Deadpool killed Ryan Reynolds, and he's just masquerading as this actor, and we don't really know. I think his chaotic energy has fully. Ryan doesn't know what's real anymore. He's like a Jekyll and
yeah,
Hyde situation.
I love Ryan Reynolds, but he just plays himself. That's how I'm feeling right now, Austin. And you're an actor. You're supposed to be someone else. You're a professional liar. And make me believe you. So
He's definitely doing
props to
that.
you.
It's kind of that old school acting thing where like you basically just play yourself in different movies, and people just show up to be like, "Let's see what Ryan Reynolds does."
Yeah,
But it's
George
working,
Clooney's
so why
going nuts
change?
for that, too.
Everyone loves it, so why change right now? So
Although I will say I don't judge actors. I don't think actors' performances should be judged based on how distantly removed it is from who they are as a person. I don't think that has merit. It's not about being someone completely different from who you are. It's about making whatever character there is reality. And if you're already pretty close to that character, I mean, that just makes your job all the easier, in my opinion. But yeah, I agree that, yeah, it definitely, I don't think there's far removed from seeing Ryan Reynolds on screen and meeting him on the street. Definitely not. He doesn't have to reach far to get into that Deadpool headspace.
definitely, that's how I feel too. Something else
Another Ryan.
the next topic is starring a new Ryan, and that's everyone's favorite Ryan Gosling, the astronaut from. He was just in First Man. He's going to take on the helmet once again and produce and star in the Hail Mary adaptation. It's going to be called Project Hail Mary from the author of The Martian. Andy Weir, the author of The Martian, he's also writing Project Hail Mary. And it's a new space sci-fi book that is releasing next year, and it's in exclusive negotiations to be acquired by MGM in a 7-figure deal. So that means $1 million, $5 million, in the millions range. Ryan Gosling. He's gonna be producing the film with Ken Cow. I'm not familiar with the Ken Cow, but that's a
Glass
Hostiles.
Castle.
Wow,
Mid-90s. Those are a few of his production works.
Some highly acclaimed films with Ken Cow. The book itself is described as a solitary tale of an astronaut on a spaceship who's tasked with saving the planet. Very original. I'm looking forward to it. Gosling is attached to play the astronaut. Big surprise. CAA is brokering the book deal with David Fugate of Launch Books after running an auction that hopefully will be the start of making more dealing more books in the future. The book will be published next spring by Random House Books, and yeah, Gosling is also a rep by that agency as well. So do you guys think that Andy Weir, he's an author. He has all of his books are being adapted at the moment. He only has 3 books. The Martian was his first one. Artemis is his second, and that's being directed by Phil Lord and Chris Miller at the moment. We don't know if that's actually going to happen. It's in pre-production development at the moment. But what do you guys think? This book is not even out yet, and the rights have been sold to it. Do you guys think this is a smart move to buy the rights to an IP that I'm sure they know more than you and me, but I'm sure it's not released yet. It's releasing next year, this book. So what do you guys think? Is this a smart move? We know the history of this author. His IP is very original, and it looks at ourselves. It's very introspective. It looks at the modern times, and it's a commentary on it, just like The Martian was. But how smart do you think this is, brokering a $7 million deal to acquire this, and we don't know what it actually is? Jackson, what do you think?
It's definitely a risk. I mean, but at the same time, I don't think what really brought people to The Martian was the book. I hesitate to say that because I didn't read The Martian, and I know that it was a New York Times bestseller along with every other book that's ever been released. But I don't know that most of us showed up to the theater because of that. We probably showed up for Matt Damon. We showed up because it had some great marketing behind it. It was branding itself as a space movie, but one that didn't take itself all too seriously. You know, it was kind of this space comedy in a way. And I found that interesting because it's not a full-fledged comedy film, but it's this isolation film that still manages to stay lighthearted in the way that, you know, movies like Castaway and other movies that try and do the self-isolation thing don't really seem to capture. Because Andy Weir is a weird writer in the space subgenre. You know, you have these people who write these space epics that are all serious and hoity-toity, and then you have Hitchhiker's Guide on the Galaxy way over here, and then Andy Weir is somewhere in the middle where it's still grounded in reality, but it's able to be consumed in a lighthearted fashion. I think that's something that, I mean, we saw the people love The Martian, myself included. It's a really interesting space. My big concern with this project is not acquiring the book. I'm sure the book is great. I'm sure they got a chance to read some copies and see that it's worthy of being adapted. My concern is Ryan Gosling. First Man did okay, didn't quite do the money they were hoping for, and didn't quite get the award recognition that would have been the best possible. Still an incredible movie by all accounts, but I'm worried that the marketing for this film will be difficult simply because now it's Ryan Gosling in another space movie. And it might be difficult for people to, you see what I mean? Like maybe to differentiate, it might be tough. And I think because, and this might not be for, 3-4 years, but even so, I think people know Ryan Gosling as Neil Armstrong now in one way or another from that role. It's an important role. So I could see the marketing being a tough thing is how do you differentiate this Ryan Gosling space movie from the one that came out, 6 years ago? So I think that'll be a hurdle for sure. So that's my concern.
And that's what I was going to say too. You described the IP, like they sold The Martian on Matt Damon. But I think they were trying to sell the First Man mostly in Ryan Gosling, and that film didn't really sell too well. And that's why before it was released, everyone was saying that this is going to be up for a ton of awards coming award season, but that didn't happen because its legs didn't bring it all the way there because of its performance at the box office. So I wonder if it's Ryan Gosling that's not going to bring this film to fruition. Like, I think this film's going to get made, but I wonder what's a bigger factor in this, Ryan Gosling himself or the IP that we still don't know exactly what it is with Project Hail Mary. What do you think, Doerge, with this?
As for buying the rights before, I feel like that's something I don't know what movie. I feel like I've heard of people doing that before on a few occasions. Like they'll get the rights to it, the book will release, and then they'll start working on it. And as they're noticing how like the audience it's getting, then they start kind of production as they go. I forget. I can't think of an example right now, but I know I've heard of something before. There was something similar that kind of happened. I brought up Ready Player One before that book came out in 2015, and then a year or two later they made a movie off of it. I don't know how close it was to that, but I mean it's smart. A lot of the ways. I mean the reason why these studios do stuff like this is because books are super cheap. I mean obviously, so you can just like make anything and then get it out there, and then you have like a guaranteed audience. Like, so I guess it's kind of counterintuitive to make it at the same time as you got the book, but Andy Weir is really popular, and if you base it off of, base your marketing off from the creator of The Martian, I guess. I don't know. It feels like something that Hollywood's doing that we as slowly newcomers to the scene don't really get privy to.
I mean, think about how many classics we take for granted that are based off of books, right? I mean, I didn't even know The Martian was based off of the book the first time I heard the marketing. I figured it was original.
Yeah.
Yeah. Every Stephen King book, Cherry that's going to release that Doerge has a small connection to, that's based off a book. And
Really?
that was brokered in in an odd way. Wait, what's it by? It's written by the character that Tom Holland's playing, right?
Yeah.
Doerge? Yeah. So it's written by the criminal ex-veteran. Take it as you may. He sold it while he was in jail. I'm pretty sure the rights to it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a cool story. I'd watch a film about that itself.
Yeah, no, he's still in prison right now. He's gonna come out.
Interesting.
Yeah. So, yeah, just like we said, like books themselves are sold in interesting ways all the time.
I suppose it's smart because if the book does really well, they don't have to fight with a bunch of other people. But I think MGM's just kind of getting a jump on it. They're saying like this is probably going to be, but we can probably get it at a cheaper price right now than if we waited. And I'm sure Andy Weir's like, sure, like
it's definitely his best interest.
paycheck on my first paycheck before the book even is like seen by critics, and then maybe it gets made into another movie. Like that's like, as an author, I mean, like that's like the best deal I can think of. Just like,
he's in that sweet spot right now, definitely.
Yeah.
You have the trust of the filmmaking side of the business. You can't really go wrong at this point. Hopefully the creativity's still there from The Martian, and that he's not just relaxing at this point from the paycheck that he got, the 7-figure deal. But we'll see how that goes. I'm rooting for the book to come out and that it's a success. I hope every film's a success, but hope it's really this one. I like Rian Johnson, not Rian Johnson, but I do like Rian Johnson, but also Ryan Gosling. Too many Ryans in one day. We're done with Ryans right now, and we're on to Shirley Appleby, and she's in talks to direct a Disney Plus body switching film. But that's not why we're talking about it, because by that headline alone, it's not film week worthy. But one thing is that she pitched her version of this project, and this woman, she's known for directing mainly just TV projects. Mixed-ish, Pretty Little Liars, The Perfectionist, and Light as a Feather. Really nothing that I'm familiar with. Also, Roswell, New Mexico. I'm not familiar with anything. Unreal as well. But she pitched this version of a film called Nice. I've never heard of it. It must be a blacklisted script that's Disney bought the rights to. But she pitched her take on the project through Zoom, and that is a service that a bunch of students are currently using in their educational duties to their universities, high schools, middle schools, pre-K, everything. A lot of students are using this at the moment. So
the future, man.
Yeah, do you guys think this is the future of pitching scripts in at least this small period of time that we're living in right now?
I recently had a Zoom conference with my entire extended family, which was chaos. So besides it being Zoom ties in, my uncle went on a tirade discussing how he believes that this pandemic is going to change business forever. That all these companies are going to realize we can be just as productive if everyone just stays home as we could be if we all stayed in the office. He believes that a lot of companies are just going to be like, work from your house. I don't care. For now, I think definitely everyone's adapting really fast. I mean, Film Week is now a video podcast that I'm in Kent. I mean, you're in Kent, aren't you, Jackson?
Yeah, Kent Stowe area.
Sam's in Pittsburgh, though. So, we adapted pretty quick. All these executives still, too. How they film stuff? I guess, but they can write. That's the one thing you can.
Oh, they can write.
Is you can write, and depending on your situation, you can edit. So, I think there'll be a lot of companies taking pitches after this, or during this, and that's probably about all they're going to be doing. Great opportunity for writers, but
Do you prefer this
it's
method, Durkee?
what's that?
Do you prefer this method to pitch stuff rather to in person?
Being face to face.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't like staring at my computer. I don't like being locked in my room all day. Because I find if I'm not forced to leave my house, I won't, which is bad. But I think pitching would be more difficult over Zoom. I don't prefer it by any means. I always think you can always get a feel for a person a lot better when you're in person, and I think you can probably give a better pitch if you're in front of them. In a way,
Yeah. One thing I tend to see with these services, online face-to-face chatting services, is you constantly talk over one another. It's much more difficult to do that while you're in person. When you're doing an interview, proposal in that sense, don't want that to happen. What do you think of this, Jackson? If you were to pitch something, would you prefer in person or just like how we're doing right now? Would you like a Zoom interview proposal?
I think, yeah, I mean, obviously they have different merits. I would prefer to be in person, most definitely. If I were the one doing the pitching, 100%. But if I were the person being pitched to, and you have to consider here, it's expensive to fly some kid out from the Northeast all the way to California just to sit in front of your boardroom so that you could realize his idea is not all that good. But if you do it over Zoom, you can go through 15 of those kids a day. You don't got to fly them out nowhere. I don't see this being the preferred method for writers. I think they'll probably push back on the idea of doing this sort of thing remotely for good reason. But if nothing else, this coronavirus situation is unique in that it has completely made it a necessity to have online infrastructure as a part of your business. It just is. And businesses that have been resisting that, or industries that have been accustomed to the old way of doing things, quote unquote, whatever that looks like, they are forced to adapt in a huge way in these last couple months. And they will find that a lot of these things, while maybe not the best for the people involved, it's more efficient. So I definitely see that this will continue. I think we'll be hearing about a lot more people being hired, being pitched, and completely remotely. It has its benefits and its drawbacks. I think it'll lead to more projects that don't deserve being made end up being made, in my opinion, because I think the only way to really flesh out an idea and make sure that it's really worth it is to meet the person in person, you know what I mean, and like talk over coffee or like really dig deep into this thing with no input delay over a screen, And that's the thing. With this sort of recording setup, you're forced to speak in a different kind of way. We talk the same way we do on the show because we know that we have an audience that we're referencing. But when it's just me and you, Sam, if we were doing it over voice chat, we would prioritize saying the most important things because we know there's a delay and we know we'd be talking over each other, that kind of thing. So, in my opinion, it'll continue, and I don't know if that's for the best, but I think that's where we're at.
Yeah, I agree. Do you think this? If this all blows over, do you think this is going to translate? Do you think this will continue at all, like as a plan B in a way for no face-to-face interview? Let's just do it over Zoom. Like, why not? Could we see that?
I know it's probably more directed to Jackson, but I mean, I'd bounce off what he said. I definitely think it becomes a realistic option that now there'll be infrastructure in place to do stuff like this. I saw a joke on Twitter that this whole pandemic really is teaching managers to know when a meeting could really be a phone call. I think it's definitely one of those things where it's like, do we really need to like drive out, sit down, meet, or could we just like Zoom call each other real fast, get it all figured out, and then it's kind of one of those things where like it might spawn something how like younger people see phone calls as very serious things. Like it's very forward to call someone. It's almost like embarrassing in a way if someone like calls people too much. We prefer text a lot more. A phone call is very formal, which is it was a whole thing I researched about for a class. But young people don't like phone calls because we have text message. This might turn into one of those things where it's like you don't meet in person unless it's super important. Otherwise,
Zoom call them, yeah.
Yeah, just Zoom call.
Whether it's Zoom or something else, but yeah, certainly, I'm definitely guilty of that. I call people like an old man. I really do.
Oh no, I like calling people. I prefer to call people when it's about business stuff.
Yeah.
But even if it's not, sometimes just calling someone nice. I think it's more of a kid thing. But
I just feel cool. I feel like Adam Sandler and Uncut Gems, just running around screaming into my cell phone. That's what I want to grow up to be. Certainly.
People that like you just kind of like. I've even had friends that I'm like, I don't really call them unless I really need to. Or other friends like a good friend of mine, Brandon Hurst. He exclusively calls me. It makes him very intimidating if you don't know him very well, but.
Definitely.
Yeah.
But this could definitely be our new normal. Sam, I think it'll start as a plan B. I think people will say, oh, yeah, something messed up with the flight. Well, we'll just Zoom call him. But I think more and more it's going to become, hey, why aren't we just hiring everybody over Zoom? And that will become the way we go now. And why aren't we just working from home? I think we're definitely, if this isn't the catalyst to some grand, online work from home society, I don't know what could be. If we are going that way, I think this will be a big way towards making that a reality. Definitely.
I see this as both a evolution and as a simplification as for what we're doing now for the interview process. And someone who also sees that is George Miller, because he is Zoom calling an actress to star in Mad Max, the Furiosa spin-off prequel film that is going to release and was supposed to go for and start production in 2021. My mistake. Yeah, 2021. So, and after a long wait, after Mad Max films, after Mad Max Fury Road, and since there was a lawsuit between Miller's production company and Warner Brothers, because he, for a little backstory, he thought he was eligible for a $9 million bonus because his film passed a few hurdles for just acclaim. Like some production companies, if you hit certain, they even put certain stipulations on Rotten Tomatoes numbers, and also just if you pass a certain amount in the box office, you'll get a bonus for your studio or even personal bonuses. And he believed that he did that in his film. He believed that Mad Max Fury Road did that. But Warner Brothers didn't award him the bonus, so they were feuding for a while. They went to court, but they finally reached an agreement outside of court, like they always do, and they settled. And he still wants to make another Mad Max Fury Road 2, and he's also working on a spinoff right now. And that spinoff is going to focus on Charlize Theron's character in the Mad Max Fury Road named Furiosa, and he is Skype calling many actresses, but one who we know of is Anya Taylor-Joy from Split, The Witch. Yeah, The Witch. She's also in Glass. She's a very talented young actress right now. Those are the three I can remember her in at the moment, but I enjoy the work that she's in. She's in a few other
from New Mutants, but
that's true.
Yeah, she's in that new Jane Austen movie.
The Emma film.
Emma, yeah, Emma. Period.
And
Emma,
she's starring in Edgar Wright's new movie, that Last Night in Soho, which there's a lot of photos of.
Yeah, but so she's very talented. She's a hot commodity right now. So, yeah, Are you guys excited for this Mad Max Furiosa film potentially starring Anya Taylor-Joy? She's one of the options, but that's the way they're looking at this point. What do you guys think?
Yes.
You're interested?
Simply yes. I mean,
Okay.
Fury Road, man. I mean,
Fury
so
Road.
I gotta say, give me the theater.
Jackson, are you interested?
Exciting, yeah. I mean, Fury Road is just, dude. If they just do that again, I mean, that's all I need. You know what I mean? I mean, if you just have the same high octane action. Tom Hardy was great in that movie, but he's not the reason I was there. I was there for the cinematography and the spectacle of it all, and just the incredibleness of the whole production. So if they just keep that intensity and ramp it up, I think I don't really care who's in front of the screen, to be honest. Give me a story, give me, the basic tent poles there. But if it's anything like Fury Road, I think we're definitely in for a treat. I had no idea what they were thinking about making sequels.
Yeah, and this film released in 2017. No, my bad. 2015 it released, and it was up for nearly every award that year. It did fine at the box office. It didn't break any awards financially, but it did fine. I think if there is a follow-up, it's going to do much better now that it's known for its critical acclaim, and it's the same really creative team coming back for it. Furiosa, I think it'll do just as fine as the first film. I don't know if it'll do as good because just the name. If they call it Mad Max Furiosa, maybe, but just calling it Furiosa might throw some people off. Just IP wise, knowing how connected it is to the first, and that it is the same production team and the same creatives behind it. But just from the news alone, I'm excited. And also, Miller was supposed to be currently working on a film called 3,000 Years of Longing, and he was supposed to be shooting this year, this summer, this film. I don't know much about it other than the title. Mm-hmm. I haven't really heard about it, but Miller said in December that he would continue to develop Mad Max films even when filming 3,000 Years of Longing. So he seems to be dedicated to this franchise and series. So I'm excited for that. I want to see Tom Hardy back into this. And when I saw Mad Max Fury Road, I wasn't personally the biggest fan, but I saw it when I was 15. I hardly remember it. I want to go back to it and revisit this film, but we'll see how it goes. And I just to see Mad Max again. Tom Hardy wasn't in it enough for me. From what I remember, it was more about Furiosa was more of a main character, I think, than from what I remember. I haven't seen it in 5 years, but
definitely fakes you out by saying Mad Max. The movie's not about Max, really. He's like the way I've heard it described is like Max is like, I mean, well, what I've watched, Max is less of the main character. He's more of the person you watch the movie, like the story through.
He's the vessel, okay.
Yeah, like Furiosa is the main character. You see the story through Max's eyes.
Okay, yeah.
The way it's been described by, I think, George
Miller. Yeah, just like George Miller said, I'm not done with Mad Max as a story, and I think you have to be a multitasker, and there's certainly another Mad Max film coming down the pike after this. We're in preparation. He's excited. It seems like his excitement should translate to the audience, and I'm getting excited as he is. So it sounds like he's passionate, which sounds great for all of us. So that's it for the film news this week. We now have trailer news for a change. We have 2 trailers that released in the previous week. One was Survive the Night starring Bruce Willis. The other one is called The Willoughbys, which is an animated Netflix film by Braun Animation. The Bruce Willis film called Survive the Night is rated R, of course. The synopsis is, after his brother Matthias is mortally wounded in a botched robbery, Jamie stalks trauma doctor Rich from the hospital to his home. Jamie proceeds to hold Rich's wife and his daughter hostage as he orders Rich to operate on his brother. This doesn't sit well with Rich, who teams up with his estranged father, Frank, who is Bruce Willis's character, to ensure his family's safety. This film is releasing, or it was supposed to release May 22nd. So it is coming to VOD. Like, these films are coming to VOD, just like the Netflix film is.
Yeah.
What do you guys think about Survive the Night from the trailer?
I liked the trailer. It was I liked that. It seems like Bruce Willis has been reluctant to take on this role of not a 20-year-old action star. Like, even though he's, I think he's in his 70s now, or pushing 70. It still felt like he was doing the whole, like, I can do the same things I did when I was 20 or 30, and he's taking on those types of films. This feels a little bit different. This feels like there's clearly a lot of stakes involved, which have been my problem with some more recent Bruce Willis installments, where it's like nothing can hurt him and he can't die. This feels very grounded compared to those. It doesn't look like he's going to be jumping out of a window after an explosion. It looks like he's, this is kind of like this cat and mouse game between these robbers and this family. And I like that both sides have stakes and both sides have something to lose. They're both fleshed out characters rather than having the villain be just some throwaway robber that doesn't have any moral compass. It seems like these robbers have a bond to each other, and they have a motive of survival rather than a motive of just, money or something boring like that. Like, they're trying to make it out of the night. Everyone's
Survive the night. They're trying to survive the night.
Exactly. I really like this property. I don't know if I'll be the one to go end up seeing it, because it does definitely seem like, it could be disappointing. Like, it could veer on the side of predictable. But if I start hearing good things, I'll go out and try this. I like me a good thriller. I'll have nightmares for a couple nights if I have to. No worries.
What's this bring out for you, Doerge, as a thriller kind of guy? What do you think?
Well, I'll be honest. I haven't seen the trailer. So that's all I got, really. I haven't really seen the trailer for this. I didn't really know this was a thing. I mean,
I hadn't heard about it either at all. And it's coming out soon.
I applaud Bruce Willis for trying something a little out of the box.
Mm-hmm.
Or at least outside of the box he's put himself in.
Yeah.
He really does typecast himself a little bit. And this feels
Death Wish.
a little bit different. Death Wish, all of the Die Hard movies. I think he had another spinoff in there somewhere too. But the Red series, he's just this unkillable bald machine, and I'd rather see him be a killable bald machine.
Yeah, it's still not too far away from where he normally is. It's like he's still punching things, and as I am watching the trailer now, jumping from the ceiling onto someone's back. I don't know, whatever.
Yeah. He wanted to retain a little bit of his superstar persona for sure. Sure.
I don't know if this is supposed to be like giving us Corona vibes or not, but I mean, I'm sure I'll kill my roommate before the end of it.
Yeah, but definitely not a disappointing trailer. It definitely makes me anticipate the release of the movie, which is its job.
Yeah,
exactly. The next film, like I said, The Willoughbys, is by Braun Animation. It's going to be released on Netflix April 22nd, 2020. It's based on the children's book of the same name by Lois Lowry. The film stars the voices of Will Forte and Maya Rudolph, Terry Crews, Martin Short, Ricky Gervais, a bunch of other names. The synopsis is, convinced that they are better off raising themselves, the Willoughby children hatch a sneaky plan to send their selfish parents on vacation. However, they learn that the hard way that raising themselves isn't such a good idea, so the siblings embark on their own high-flying adventure to find the true meaning of family. Jackson, as a fan of Klaus, do you think this is the next best animated feature from Netflix?
I definitely think it's possible. I really liked the trailer for this one. I thought it's funny. The animation's, of course, great. And it's similar to Braun's earlier production of the Addams Family. These characters actually look really similar to the Addams Family models in a lot of ways. But I was really excited because it's funny. The jokes land decently well for a kids' film, which you always want to see. But I just think in the small little moments of humor, just like the way a character does something, or the way, like, there's this one scene where I think it's like 30 seconds in or something. I don't know, just the way this kid cuts this paper with scissors, I just find hysterical. He just like symmetrically cuts it in this very precise way. It's just these little quirks in the character animation that I find so great and so charming that I really enjoy from this trailer. But I'm not going to say it's going to be a best animated feature or anything. I don't know. We have a few strong animated films coming out. I just like to see these different styles, because for so long it was either your options were Pixar animation or DreamWorks or
Blue Sky
for forever.
Yeah, you're very limited.
Not to say that there weren't other studios, but the ones that were successful consistently, pretty much Pixar and Illumination. DreamWorks hit or miss, but Braun had found some success with the Addams Family. They had a little bit of profit off of it, and I hope that continues and we see more animation studios hit the mainstream in the way that Pixar and other studios like that have managed to. I want to see a Braun animation film and what's the one that you were talking about, Sam? The one who did Kubo and The Missing Link?
That is Leica. And I love them. But
yeah, I want to see more of them prop up. I'd like to see animation become more diversified.
I wish they would go on Netflix. So I wish Netflix would buy their work so they wouldn't have to worry as much about the financial responsibilities of making a certain amount. They already really don't, because their financial backing of the owner of Nike. So they're good at that end, but just having someone like that can cement, like Netflix, that can cement them with their like a safety blanket. I wish they would have that, because they make great stuff. I want them to continue to make great stuff. But what do you think, Doerge? You're looking at the animation, I bet. What do you think?
Well, I think it looks cool.
Family.
You think it looks cool?
I think it looks cool. The animation is interesting. I mean, I know I made the thing about me watching kids shows recently, but I'm not. This is not the type of kids show I'm into. I mean, it looks fun. It looks like something kids might enjoy. It's not. It definitely appeals to a very young audience. I mean, if I had kids, I'd take them to it, or I wouldn't, because
it's on Netflix.
Yeah,
it's on Netflix. Yeah, so why not? Give it a chance. It's on Netflix April 22nd. So nearly this month, a few days. So we'll see how this goes with the Willoughbys. And that said, Film Club.
Oh, here we go.
What the first film in the Film Club catalog that is, we're going to try to stay to films that are on Netflix, because nearly everyone has Netflix nowadays. So the one film that I already saw, this film, we talked about it last week briefly, but I'd like to have our whole audience watch it, and I'll watch it again to try to look at it through a new perspective. And that is 1 second. I'll type it out really quick.
You put it up on the screen.
Yeah, that anticipation.
The Platform.
There we go.
So it's a great film. It's on Netflix. I want to watch it again. I just saw it 2 weeks ago, but I'll watch it again. So everyone can discuss it. Everyone in the chat who comes. It's a Spanish. It came out in 2019. It was made in Spanish. So just make sure before you all watch it that Netflix automatically converts this film, at least when I watched it, to English. It dubs it in English to begin with. So just make sure to switch it to Spanish and put it on American caption or English captions. And that's how I watched it. It's a short watch. It's 93 minutes. And this is a good way that we can all have our little book club together. We can discuss this film, talk about what we think, and have either of you seen this film yet?
No, I was excited to take a look at it after you mentioned it last week. I watched the trailer with Stephanie, and she was definitely like, I don't know, that looks gross, but I might see if I can convince her to watch the first 20. I think it looks gross too. She's looking at me. I think it looks gross too, the platform. But I think
you have to. It's film club. It's film club. You have to watch it. So you have to watch it, Jackson. I'm sorry to say, but I'm excited to have all of us watch it together. Yeah, John says film club gang hashtag film club gang. He says he'll watch it. I'll watch that so quick. Of course. So it's a quick watch. It's an awesome film. It really mirrors. We'll talk about it next week with the themes and everything behind it. We'll be a bunch of old women sitting at our coffee table around a cup of tea discussing this film. So we'll see everyone next week. I'm sorry to say that everyone here, we have to change the time of the show because I just got a job today and my hours are this time. They asked me to work 5 to 10 today. I said I can't. Film week is right now. So so we'll have to see when we're changing the time. We'll discuss with our crew and see what time works. A Tuesday or a Sunday is most likely what we're gonna do, but that'll happen. We're excited to continue the show. So this is Samuel Teyssier. Follow the Film Week Twitter. Like, subscribe. Share this video to everyone you know. Jackson, anything you want to say before we close out for today?
Nope. Excited to see the platform. I'll see you guys next week.
Doerge, any closing remarks?
Wash your hands and social distancing. Otherwise,
Amen.
We're going to be stuck doing this forever.
Amen. See you guys next week. Awesome having you. Everyone, be safe. Stay healthy. See you next week.
See you guys.